Hello everyone. Welcome to the live session. I'm Neeta Shankar. I'm a wedding and lifestyle photographer from Bangalore. I'm one of the brand ambassadors for Godox India. So today I'm conducting a quick live session on lighting aspects of photography. So let me just set up the Instagram live. So I see that a lot of people have already logged in. That's great. Just a quick check. Please let me know in case there is any issue with the audio. Hope all of you are able to hear me. Just let me know in comments if you are able to hear me. Okay, I see that some people are saying that the audio is cracking and some people are saying it's fine. So let's just sort this out first. Varun, can you adjust the mic? So please let me know now if the audio is fine. Okay, great. Everyone's telling me that it is fine. Okay, that's great. Okay, great to see so many people already, dropping comments and saying hi. Hi to everyone who's already, logged in and commented. So in case you have any questions on lighting, please drop a comment and I'll get back once I'm, done with the presentation. So today I just wanted to quickly talk about why you need external lighting, because a lot of photographers that I meet, a lot of new photographers, amateur photographers still tell me that they are natural light photographers and they kind of prefer to be natural light photographers, although there's nothing wrong with that. But if you are a professional photographer, it's not really possible to be a natural light photographer all the time. You need to understand external lighting. You need to know how to control light, how to modify light, how to use, how to make pictures even in absolute low light and create beautiful images. So as professional photographers, we don't always get a control over the kind of lighting that we want to shoot in. Like for example, if I'm shooting a wedding, most often, when I get time to make some couple pictures outside, would be during lunch break, when all the rituals are done and, there is a short lunch break, just before or after lunch break is when I get to make a few pictures outdoors. And if I don't know how to use external lighting, then there is no way in the midday sun I'll get beautiful pictures, right? So although I would love to shoot early morning and late evenings in all the shoot using natural light, but most often maybe owing to time constraints of the clients or maybe owing to their schedule, most often it's not always possible to shoot in like the best of light. So if you want to be a professional photographer, it's extremely important to learn lighting, and it's extremely important to build your lighting kit, just as important as it is to get a good camera and a set of good lenses. It is just as important to buy some flashes. Even if you start off with something as basic as an on-camera flash, that is totally fine. Something like this like the V862 or even the AA battery powered flashes like the TT685 or TT585, even you start with something as basic as that, it is fine to start with, but you need to learn external lighting. Okay, so before I proceed, here are my links. I don't know if you're able to see them, so I'll just quickly go over it. My website is neetashankar.com and my Instagram account is Neeta Shankar. You'll find me on Instagram at if you search for Neeta Shankar, that is NEETASHANKAR. If you want to find me on Facebook, it's Neeta Shankar Photography, and I have a lot of photography tutorials on my YouTube channel which you might be interested in, so do check out my YouTube channel again at Neeta Shankar, youtube.com/Neeta Shankar. Okay, so coming to the topic, so we are going to discuss some of the reasons why I use external lights. So almost all of my pictures, or at least 90% of my images, are have some sort of lighting in them. So I'll talk about 10 reasons why I think it's extremely important to learn lighting, to learn artificial lighting, to be able to use external lighting. So in one of the first things I would like to say is that if you want your images to stand out, ensure that the light in it is magical. So light is something that will turn any of the ordinary scene into something extraordinary. So whether it is natural light or artificial light, if you have beautiful light in your image, you will have taken care of most of it already. And then all you need to pay attention to is the composition and getting the moment right. But getting the lighting part of it right is it forms like a major part of your creative process. So okay, so one of the first reasons why I think it's extremely important to use external lighting is that external light allows us to darken the backgrounds. Why would you need to do that? Like if you take any image, the brightest part of the image is where the viewer's attention will go. So now imagine if you're shooting in natural light and if you're shooting against a bright sky or you're shooting against a bright background. What happens is that if the background is so bright, obviously your viewer's attention will go to the background rather than the subject. But instead, say in images like these, you would want to draw attention to the subject by darkening the background. So that's what I do in all my shots. I first darken the background, I underexpose the background, and then add a light to light my subject. So now, for example, in this image, you can see that because the sky has been underexposed, the sky colors look amazing. Plus, now the brightest part of the image is her face, so that way you will be drawing the viewer's attention directly to your subject rather than everywhere else. Okay, so let me just quickly go through in case there are any questions so far. Okay, so Harsh has asked, he wants to be a wedding photographer but he does not have any flash. So he wants to purchase his first flash. So what would I recommend? So if you're starting out with photography or wedding photography, whatever it is, if you're starting out and you are still not used to flashes, one of the first things that you can try out is an on-camera flash, which can also be used off camera. So like something like this is V862. It's not very expensive, and this can go on your camera as well, and it can also go off your camera by using a trigger. Right, so this will be something that you can easily start off with. Why I recommend V862 is that it's got lithium-ion battery. This has got lithium-ion battery, which is which is really good when it, when you want the battery to last a long time, especially if you're shooting weddings. You would want something that will last the entire day. You do not want to like keep changing batteries all the time, right? So if you're a wedding photographer, I would definitely recommend the lithium ion flash. So that's the V862, or you can get the V1. So you can start off with an on-camera flash and then upgrade to something that is mostly off-camera, like the AD200. Okay. Okay, so Eunice has asked me a good question. Why Godox? Why not any other brand? Let me tell you, of all the brands that I've tried, Godox is the most value for money. It has got a versatile set of flashes. There is flashes all the way from like 5,000, 6,000 range, all the way till like 45,000, 50,000 range, and it's still very inexpensive compared to other brands. And so it becomes a lot more easier to build your lighting kit with Godox rather than any other brand. I think apart from being value for money, I think their products are excellent. I love all their products, and it's easy to learn, it's easy to use, and it's very durable. I think it's it is definitely one of the best brands that are available right now. So instead of asking me why Godox, ask why not Godox. Okay, so Ronak is asked about Godox V860. So that's what I was talking about all this while. It's a really good flash to have, especially because it has a lithium ion flash, lithium ion battery. So that way it makes it very easy to shoot for longer without having to keep changing your batteries all the time. So you can use it on camera, you can use it off camera, and all of Godox lights are high speed sync capable up to 1/8000th of a second. So that's another reason why you should consider Godox. Okay, so someone has asked me, how do you underexpose your background if it's very close to your subject? Now, let's say for example, right now the wall is very close to me. So if you're lighting me, the light will obviously fall onto the wall as well. So if your background is really close to your subject, it's very difficult to avoid the light from spilling onto the background. So one of the first things that you have to do in photography is to ensure that your subject is a little away from your background, so that you get a nice shallow depth of field, as well as you can pull the exposure down of the background, so that you can ensure that the light is not reaching the background as well, right? So even if you're shooting in studio, or if you're shooting in front of a wall, something like that, always pull your subject away from the wall or the backdrop, so that you can light your subject separately and not have the light spill onto the background. Okay, so Arvind is asking, how do you set up a small light setup in your home? In my home, I am a Nikon user. Okay, so Arvind, what you could do is, first of all, it depends on what you like to shoot. If you are mostly shooting, portraits of people, and you mostly want to set up kind of like a portrait studio, then you would need multiple lights first thing, because you can't do all sorts of work with just a single light. Like you would need a key light that lights your subject. You would need a fill light to fill in all the shadows that is created by the key light. You would need a rim light to separate your subject's hair from the background. So like that, you would need at least like 2 to 3 lights to begin with. So what you could do is, if you're mostly shooting indoors, if you're mostly shooting at your home and indoors, then you can first of all, get an on-camera flash that you can time and again bounce it off the wall or ceiling and create some light. So that is first option. And second option, get something like this, which is really portable as well as not very expensive. So this is 8200, and there is 8200 Pro as well. So I think 8200 sells in the market for about like 20,000. So this is like 200 watt light, and it's a really good light. So you can put it through a softbox, or you can pick up some flash modifiers or something like that. And I would recommend use it with a softbox. Get a softbox for the 8200. So this can become your key light, and your flashes can become your fill light, or it can become your hair light and things like that. So to start off with, if you don't want to invest a lot of money, this is a good option to start with. It's an inexpensive light to start with, so it's a something that is like very portable as well, that you can take it elsewhere as well. Or if you are mostly only shooting at your home, then you can even consider buying powered strobes like the SK 400 or SK QS 400. So you can buy these kind of strobes which will enable you to just connect to power and light your subjects. So the advantage of powered strobes is that they are a lot more cheaper than these which are battery operated. So like for example, this one is a lithium ion battery operated strobe. So it is obviously a little more expensive than the powered strobe. So if you are on a budget, and if you're mostly going to shoot in one place and you're not going to move around, then it's a great idea to invest in powered strobes rather than these battery operated ones. But if you are considering that sometime in the future you may even step out and do some outdoor photography, then consider getting a battery operated one which can serve both indoor and outdoor. Okay, so let me, so I was just talking about all the reasons why I use flash, right? So one of the other reasons is I like to overpower the sun and avoid any kind of harsh shadows. Like for example, this image was shot at around like 10 o'clock in the morning. So at that time the light was already harsh, and obviously being in an open space like this with just a lake behind and there's no tree cover, there's no shade, obviously there is going to be a lot of uneven shadows on their faces. So we've used a single light source to light them up. First thing to do in such a scenario is again to underexpose the background so that the background doesn't get blown out. Once you get the correct exposure for the background, you add a light onto them. So by lighting them up, you can see that there is no uneven shadows, or there is no the light doesn't look harsh or anything. So if you want to overpower the sun, then you need a powerful flash, something like the 8600 or the 8400. So yeah. The other reason why I use flash is because I shoot a lot in backlit conditions. Like even if I'm shooting in like golden hour or the blue hour, whenever I'm shooting in golden hour or blue hour, I always look for keeping the sun in the background in my images like this, where the beautiful sunset can be seen and the couple or the subject is in front of it. So I don't want the golden light to be falling on them all the time. I may use the golden light sometimes directly, the natural golden light of the sun, but most often I always keep the sun behind the subject, because that's when the background looks really dynamic and really beautiful, right? So whenever you're shooting in backlit conditions, obviously if you get the exposure right for your subject, then your background gets blown out, right? Or if you get the exposure right for the background, then your subjects appear like a silhouette, they become completely dark. So in such scenarios you definitely need an external light. right? So, or even in scenarios like this where there are like big huge windows or big huge doors that are bringing in a lot of light from the background, and in such scenarios you would want to have an external light to light your subject. Otherwise the background will go completely blown and it will not look as interesting. Okay, so I also use lights when I want to create like a sunlight like glow in my images. So most often, like I said before, we don't always get we don't always get a chance to shoot in like the best of light all the time. Like for example, during this pre-wedding shoot, the couple was actually a little late, and by the time they came, the beautiful light, early morning light had disappeared. The light had become really harsh. So we had two choices: either just continue shooting with whatever was available, or we could try and replicate sunlight using our external lights. So that's what I've tried to do here. I've used two lights here, one to create this sunlight like glow that is behind this bush, which also has an orange gel that is creating this nice rim light on them, as well as creating that beautiful early morning sunlight like glow in the image. And second light is the key light which is falling on them and lighting them so that they are well lit. So even in this you can see that I've used you can see a little bit of flare coming from here, and you see the rim light on her sari. So you can know that there is a light source that is modified with a color gel so that it behaves like sunlight, and then there is another key light which is lighting her face. So in case you're not able to see these images, go on to my Instagram account at Neeta Shankar, and you will be able to find, if you scroll through my feed, you will be able to find these images. Okay, let me look at some more questions now. Okay, so Dark Pixel is asking me wedding के लिए AD200 Pro अच्छा रहेगा या AD400 Pro? I'm really sorry, my Hindi is like terrible, so please bear with me while I try and pronounce Hindi words. But yeah, so you're asking if for wedding shoots, if AD200 Pro is better or AD400 Pro. When I shoot weddings, my main source of light is always the AD200 Pro, mainly because it is so portable and it's so compact and it's easy for anyone to hold. So usually I have an assistant who will always carry this around, and whenever I need light from a certain direction, I just tell them saying I need the light from this direction or that direction, whatever. So then if I don't have a light stand, or if I don't have a space to set up my light stand, or if the rituals are like moving from one place to another and I don't have the time to move the stands from one place to another, so this becomes really easy to hold. So someone can just hold it in their hand and light the subject. So you need not actually carry like big light stands and keep moving the light stands from here to there. So that way I think AD200 Pro, there's nothing to beat the portability of that. So that is why I prefer the AD200 Pro any day for weddings. I take out my AD600 Pro or AD400 Pro only when I am doing portrait shoots and I have a lot of time to do the setup. Otherwise, because weddings are always really fast paced and you have to move around quickly, you have to be portable. So yeah, for weddings I would definitely say go for the AD200 Pro. Okay, so Jivak is asking Godox AD600 के साथ normal flash sync कर सकता है क्या? Yeah. Yeah, you can definitely sync any of these flashes with the AD200 Pro or AD600 Pro. All of these are have basically the same wireless system. So all of them have inbuilt wireless receivers, and if you have a Godox trigger, you can sync all of these lights together. So whether you have like the cheapest 5,000 rupee flash, or you have 45,000 rupee flash from Godox, it can all sync together. Okay, so Nishan is asking, he has a D7500 with two primes, that is 50 mm and 35 mm. Please suggest me a high speed sync flash between Godox 8200 and V1. Now, if you are comfortable completely using off-camera flash, then go with the 8200. If you don't have even one on-camera flash, then I would definitely recommend to go with the V1 first, because you can use it both on camera and off camera. Only thing is, this is not as powerful as the 8200, but it definitely has an advantage that you can pop it onto your camera as well. You can mount it on your hot shoe and use it on camera as well, because not always you will want to use it off camera. Sometimes if you want to do a quick lighting setup, if you need a quick source of light, you may want to use it on camera as well. But if you're completely comfortable using off-camera flash, then there's nothing to beat this. Okay, so Ritesh is asking best softbox for outdoor. Okay, so let me first explain what's a softbox, because a lot of new photographers would not know. Whatever flash that you are using, the light that comes out of it will be a little harsh compared to, if you are modifying it with a modifier. So most often you would have seen photographers use like soft boxes, they use umbrellas, and so these are all modifiers which is actually softening your light. So if you don't modify your light, if you use the light as is from your flash, it may not be really soft and it may give you hard light. So now for some situations hard light is fine too. But most often you would want to soften your light to get like really soft light to light your subjects, especially if you're doing portraits. So in such scenarios, if you are shooting outdoors, because you asked me about outdoor softbox, I would definitely recommend the P90H, which is parabolic softbox, and it is 90 centimeter wide, and H stands for heat resistant version. There's also a lightweight version. I would not recommend that because if you are shifting from place to place and if you are like dismantling, setting it up time and again, the lightweight version may break. So it's better to go with the heat resistant version, which is a lot more sturdier. So P90H is the softbox. Why I recommend that is because the parabolic softbox, because of its shape, it actually throws the light much further. So when you're shooting outdoor, you can't really bring the softbox very close to your subject. You would want to, bring it back a little away out of your frame, right? So in such scenarios, you would definitely, benefit from a parabolic softbox as opposed to a regular octabox or regular softbox. So invest in P90H. There is also a 120 centimeter version. I don't prefer that because it's way too big to carry in a car, or sometimes when we are moving from location to location, 120 centimeter is like too big and it becomes difficult to move around with it. So 90H is smaller and it's easier to move around. So P90H is a really great option. Okay, so RJV Photography is asking, on 8400 the battery doesn't last as much as 8200 and their direct power adapter is not yet available. What would you suggest on this? All these battery operated lights will give you about like 300 to 500 images in full power, mostly around 300 images in full power. So most often I would say don't shoot in full power. Try and shoot as low power as possible, so that you can ensure that the battery lasts longer. Second, if you are shooting more than these number of images in a day, then definitely carry an extra battery, because it's not very heavy to carry an extra battery and it's not very expensive, so invest in an extra battery. Okay, so just a clicker is asking about V1 for weddings for beginners. I think V1 is a great product. I mean, it is one of my favorite flashes. I use it on camera as well as off camera. So one of the reasons I like this is because sometimes when we say on the dance floor, when I would want to use sort of direct flash, because of the round head, it actually gives a much more nicer light spread, and it also gives a more diffused light than, because the Fresnel of this is a lot better than the Fresnel of the regular rectangular flash. So that way I like the V1, the light quality from V1 a lot more than the V862 if I'm using it directly. If I'm modifying the light, then it won't matter much. If I'm putting a softbox in front of this or a softbox in front of this, both of those will provide similar light quality. So only if you're going to use, if you're going to use the light directly onto your subjects, then I would say go with the V1. Even if you're using it off camera and if you're using it directly without adding a modifier in front, then V1 is definitely a better option than the V860. Okay, so Omi is asking, tell us about your wedding photography light kit. Okay, so I have the V1, which is generally on my camera. So I use it like an on-camera flash to bounce off in places where I can't, I can't sneak in a light stand or I can't sneak in an assistant. So in such cases, it's this is like a quick source of light, so I use it like a bounce flash. Then most often, wherever possible, I would prefer to use a off-camera flash. So I typically use my 8200, and I don't use it with this head. I use it with a bulb head and a softbox. So that way, because of the softbox, the light is softer than having direct, smaller light flash heads on it. So yeah, so I use 8200 with the softbox, and since the V1 is on my camera, I use V1 like a trigger. Whenever I want to switch to off camera lighting, I just I change the mode on my V1 to act like a trigger, and I trigger the external off camera flashes. So yeah, so this is what I use. I most often use two 8200s with two soft boxes as my off-camera lighting, and like I said, I use this for my on-camera lighting and also to act as a trigger when I'm switching to off-camera. So, and apart from that, I also use an LED wand. This is the LC500, and it's a great piece of equipment, especially if you're in a hurry. And if things are happening really fast, and if it's mostly indoor that you're shooting, then this is like a quick light source that you can set up and for like quick shots. So although most often I'd prefer to use the 8200, but there are situations when maybe when the bride is getting ready, or she's getting late, so she may be rushing through, and I may not have a lot of time to set up the lights and stuff. So then for those quick shots, I use the LC500. So, and also LC500 is great if you're shooting video as well as photo, because otherwise if you're although I do use flash along with LC500 in such situations, but if you have a lot of flash bursts in your video, it won't look nice. So if you're shooting both photo and video, it's good to switch to all LEDs kind of setups, so that it doesn't really look too jarring in your video. Okay, So with love photography is asking flash settings for taking the pictures by keeping the background dark. I'm sure you know how to meter your subject. I am sure you know how to meter your scene. So just meter your scene, whatever is your scene. If you're shooting against a sunset, or you're shooting against sky, or whatever it is, meter your scene, underexpose the scene by a couple of stops. See to what extent you like that, how dark you want the background to be. So that is again completely based on your preference. I don't like to have my background too dark. Like even when I'm shooting weddings, I don't like to have the background completely dark so that all the ambient light is gone. I prefer to mix ambient light as well as flash in most of the situations, especially if I'm shooting outdoor. During early morning or evenings, I would want that nice beautiful ambient light also in my background. So for example, let me just quickly show you some image. Okay, say some image like some image like this, where you can see that I've kept, this was shot during sunset, so I've kept the ambient light as is. I've not made the background too dark, or even say simple some image like this. Yeah, the same scene, wider scene, the sun is setting here, we've lit them with flash. In this scenario, I've got the exposure right for the background, like the house and the trees, the sky. I've not underexposed it too much because I don't want too much of contrast in my image, in this particular image. So depending on what contrast you want, if you want to completely darken your background, then underexpose it a lot more. If you want just a little underexposed so that you get the nice colors of the background but you have proper light on them, then just underexpose it a little bit. So it all is dependent on your preference. Okay, so a lot of people are asking me to switch off the comment section. Unfortunately, we won't be able to do that because I want to actually answer some of the questions that you guys have. Then I won't be able to see the comments. So probably what you could do is view it on your desktop. That way you will be able to see the comments separately and you will be able to see the video separately. So you could do that, or you have to adjust. Okay, so Sunny is asking me, do you use round head flash on 8200? Yes, I do prefer the round head because it's like you can see the diffusion panel in front of the round head is actually really diffused, so it actually gives me better light than the flash head, the normal Fresnel flash head. So I prefer the round head if I'm using the 8200 directly, or with like small modifiers like maybe the AKR1 or things like that. So if I'm using the small magnetic modifiers that can go onto the magnets in the round head, I use that. But most often I use the 8200 with the soft box, so I use the bulb head with it. Okay, so Films Specs is asking, would you tell me something about 8600? Okay, 8600, this is the 8600 Pro. The 8600, there was another version before this which was the 8600. So 8600 and 8600 Pro are both 600 watt lights. They are like the most powerful ones that you can buy in the battery operated series. This is something that you should consider if you're mostly shooting outdoors and during the day in like bright light, where you want to cut down a lot of sunlight in order to get your images right. So if you're shooting in like broad daylight and you want to overpower the sun, you definitely need a lot of power in your flash. So that is when you would use something like this. Otherwise, even an 8400 or 8200 will be sufficient if you're not shooting in like, you know, broad daylight. Yeah. Okay, so Ranjit is asking which is best for outdoor portraits. Like I said before, the 8600 is a great choice if you're shooting mostly outdoor and you're shooting in like broad daylight. Otherwise, you can, if you don't have the budget for 8600 Pro, you can also go with 8600, which is a lot lesser. The only difference, there are some differences between the Pro version and the normal version, but for most of our use, the 8600 is also a great buy. I use it all the time. I use both of them interchangeably, so both of them are good products. So if it is the power that you're most concerned with, you can even choose the 8600. Or if you don't need a lot of power, if you are, you can even consider an 8200 or an 8400, which is like in between these two. Okay, so Studio Picture Point is asking, I have a Nikon SB910 and a Godox 685, TD685 and Godox X Pro trigger. Is it possible to control both as an off-camera flash? Yes, you can do that. You can do that in multiple ways. One is you can turn on the slave mode on your SB910, so that if it acts as an optical slave, the minute your Godox flash goes on, the SB910 will also figure it out and it will fire at the same time. So that is one way, using optical flash, using optical slave. And the other way, an easier, most reliable way, is to get a receiver for your Nikon flash. So Godox also makes X1R, which is a receiver, so you can get like a full kit like X1T and X1R, which is the transmitter and receiver. So if you put a receiver on your SB910, then you will be able to use it with your Godox trigger. Okay, so I am Ankit Jain is asking which is the best softbox for V1. Any small softbox, like maybe like a 60 centimeter softbox would be ideal. Anything bigger than that will become too big for a small flash like this. So if you want to use a regular Godox softbox with the V1, you will need to buy something called an S bracket. So S bracket connects onto V1 and then the softbox goes onto the S bracket. Okay, someone is suggesting switch off the comment area display for viewers. Is it possible to display comments only for me and switch it off for the viewers? Okay, let's try that. We'll try. Okay, so I don't think I'll be able to turn off comments only for viewers. If I turn off commenting, then none of you will be able to ask me any questions. So this is the best we can do as of now. Okay, so Sunil Photography is asking how many lights do you require for a photo shoot outdoor and which flash is better? I would say at least 2 lights would be good, one for the hair light, one for the key light. A third light to add fill would help. So 2 to 3 lights is what you can use. You can also do a lot of good work using just a single flash as well, but having 2 to 3 lights would be a good option. Okay, so let me just complete what I had to say. So I was talking about Okay, so I talked about creating golden hour glow sort of thing, and the other reason why I like to use flash is because look at these two images. Now this image is without any flash. It was a nice overcast day, so the light doesn't look harsh. This image is usable too, but the minute you add flash, you add directional lighting, and the minute you add flash, you create a lot of dimension in your image. You create a lot of dimension, you bring out the shape. So that is one of the reasons I love using flash, because by directing the light source, by modifying it with suitable modifiers, you can add a lot of dimension to your subject's face. So instead of the face looking flat like this, you can actually make the face look narrower, you can make the face look, the jawline look more shaped. You can make the cheekbones look sharper, so that way you can actually shape your subject's face and make them look a lot nicer rather than with flat lighting. So it's extremely important to use good lighting setup in your images. Yeah, so this is an example for the image where the contrast between background and foreground is completely high. So that way, because of the high contrast, the background is completely darkened out, where I've purposely underexposed the background because there was a lot of clutter in the scene. So like I said, I generally don't prefer to shoot like this. I always try to keep some of the ambient light, but the only time when I switch to shooting with high contrast, where I completely make the background ambient light to be cut off, is when there is a lot of distractions in the background and I don't want the attention going to that. So when I want to completely darken the background, all I do is just underexpose the background first and then add the light suitably. So another example for that would be something like this. Something like this. Now I liked all the lights that were on the ceiling, so I got those lights, but this was actually the dining area in the reception. So there were a lot of tables and with people eating and stuff in a distance. So I didn't want attention going to all of that. So I just completely underexposed the background just to get the lights in the ceiling, and added the light onto the subject so that the image looks nice. And I kept the camera really close to the floor, which was like a marble floor, to get the reflection on the floor as well. Okay, so otherwise, like I said, typically once again, let me bring up the image. Yeah, typically I prefer to shoot something like this, where I have the nice beautiful ambient light, and I would have lit the subject separately. So this was shot during a sunset, and so it has like the really nice beautiful light on the clouds and on the water body behind him. So all I needed was to get the ambient light right, and then add a light onto him. Same thing with a different just a slightly different composition. Now I moved him in front of the water body so that I can get a reflection on the water body as well. So again, it's the same setting where I've got the exposure right for the background. So depending on what is your taste, what is your preference, what is your vision, you can decide on how much you want to underexpose the background, then add a light of sufficient quantity to light that subject. Okay, so the other reason why I like to use lights is because you can direct the light, you can modify the light, you can reduce the spill of light, so that you can light only the portions of the subject that you prefer to light, or only portion of the scene that you want to light, so by darkening everything else. Now in this, I just wanted to add like a strip of light across her face, highlighting her beautiful eyes and her lips. So I didn't want anything else to be lit, so I've created this narrow strip of light, so that way you can, by using the suitable modifier, you can actually cut down on the light spill everywhere. Okay, so this is one of my favorite reasons why I use flash, because flash helps you freeze motion. So let's say you're shooting on someone on a dance floor, or you're shooting with low shutter speeds, which will cause the motion to blur. You can use a flash to freeze that motion. So any sort of motion in your frame, use a flash, that motion will appear a lot more frozen. So say something like this, where I wanted to freeze the particles in the air, the color particles in the air, or if I want to freeze the wave, where I want the wave to be very distinct and frozen. So if you want to do that, you have to use a flash. Okay, so this I already talked about before as well. So whenever I want to avoid any sort of clutter in the background, like for example, this was shot during makeup, so right behind her is the table with all the makeup items, all the makeup brushes and makeup foundations and stuff like that, but you don't see all that because the light is only falling on her. So if you can bring the light source really close to your subject, then the light fall off will be really drastic, so that way the light won't reach a distance. So ensure that your light source is really close to your subject, so that the background really goes dark, or rather ensure that the background is really far away from your subject, so that way you can darken the background and you can avoid any sort of clutter in the frame. So here also these were all the lights that were hanging in the venue. So all those typical round bulbs, the warm bulbs. So we wanted the bulbs to be properly exposed, and we wanted to light the couple separately. If I had shot in just the bulb light, because that was creating beautiful ambient light, but the problem was the background was not that great, because the background had a lot of bushes, it had a lot of clutter, it had some wedding chairs and stuff like that lying around. So we didn't want to draw attention to all that. So all we did was underexpose the scene so that the bulbs look don't look overexposed, and then we lit the couple separately so that they stand out. Okay, so this is the last slide that I had. So basically, whenever you want to get creative, like for example, in this, in broad daylight, I've done like a 30-second exposure to get the cloud movement, right? And I have the couple frozen there. If you want to do shots like this with long exposures, motion blur, where you are shooting with like really slow shutter speeds, there is no way your subjects can remain still for that long. So in such scenarios, you need to use a really powerful burst of light. Like here I use two 8600s, so it's almost like 1200 watts of power to freeze the subject. And after that, when the exposure continues, even if the subject moves a little bit, that won't be captured. Instead, everything else in the background that has moved will be captured. So I've got the long exposure of the clouds, but I've got the couple frozen in time. So in the similar way, this is on the ocean, in front of the ocean, where we had the waves, we had the shutter speed set to a really slow shutter speed, something like 10 seconds. So I've got the movement in clouds, I've got the movement in motion blur in the waves, and we've also done some light painting, creative effects with using a sparkler. So that way, but the couple is frozen. Even though they've stood for 10 seconds, the couple is frozen because of a very powerful burst of flash. So using a really powerful burst of flash, you can actually freeze your subjects. So this is one thing that I really like to do. Similarly, even in weddings, we shoot images like this where we get a lot of motion blur, especially on the dance floor. I love shooting images like this where we get the motion blur of the lights, but we freeze the subject with a powerful burst of light. So that way the subject is frozen, the kid here is frozen, the guy who's carrying the kid is frozen, but everything else is got that nice motion blur. Okay, so I have only 5 minutes left because Instagram doesn't allow me to go live for longer than an hour. So let me just quickly switch to some of the questions that are there. Let me answer as many as possible. Okay, where did I leave? So Syed is asking, when you have high speed sync, is it possible to underexpose sunlight? Yes. So basically you need, if you want to underexpose sunlight, if you want to underexpose the scene during broad daylight, you would want to increase your shutter speed to like 1/6000, 1/8000, whatever it requires. Mainly because most of us would want to shoot with shallow depth of field. So your f number is most likely going to be like really low, and you would want shallow depth of field. So let's say you're shooting with an 85 1.8, you would probably be shooting at 1.8 or 2.0 or 2.8 maximum. So if you cannot change your aperture, if you want to underexpose, the only other way to change that is to increase your shutter speed. So if you're shooting at 1/8000th of a second or something, so you need flashes which support high speed sync. So all of these support high speed sync, and you will be able to shoot the image. Okay, so Nishan is asking choice between V862 and V1. So like I said, the main difference between these two is the head. This has a round head, whereas this has a rectangular head. This has a more diffused Fresnel in front of it, whereas this has the regular Fresnel head. So only time that there is a difference between these two is when you use them directly onto your subject. If you're going to use it with any sort of modifier, if you're going to put a softbox in front of it or an umbrella in front of it, both of their light quality will be very similar. So depending on your budget, you can opt for one. V1 is more expensive than V862, but like I said, if you're going to use it with a softbox, it doesn't matter, go with the V862 also, that is also fine. But if you're going to sometime use the flash directly onto your subject, then it's better to go with V1. Okay, so Akshay is asking which modifier do you recommend for weddings. Like I said, I use my 8200 with a small softbox. I use it with the AD-S7 softbox, which is like probably like a 50 centimeter small softbox. So I find it really convenient to use it with that. Or you could even buy a normal softbox, like a 60 centimeter softbox, and put it with an S bracket. Okay, so Niloy is asking, can I use 8200 with umbrella octa? Yes, of course you can use it with umbrella octa. You just need an S bracket to use it with that. Okay, so okay, I think I've pretty much covered most and I'm running out of time. So I think the live is going to end anytime now because it's been an hour. So let me say, yeah, thank you so much for joining. I'm Neeta Shankar. You can find me on Instagram at Neeta Shankar, NWTASHANKAR. There is a comment, pinned comment which has my ID. So do follow me there and stay connected with me for all the future live sessions. I keep doing live sessions pretty often on my on my Instagram and my Facebook channels. So do stay connected and see you guys soon on my channel as well.